Hi, Pat Moran with another episode of Sick Money. So I talked yesterday a little bit about tax deferral and addressing some of those comments today. I'm going to get into that in a minute. I have this guy up here occasionally. When I was growing up, he was Gumby, and I always remember that you had these versions of Gumby where you could pull him in all these different directions, and it just kind of reminds me today of what a lot of people are experiencing. It's like we're getting pulled in a lot of different directions. What do I do if I need money? How am I going to pay my bills? What about my job? My account that's in the stock market. How am I going to, what's the future going to look like? Are we going to get a vaccine? Is this person next to me sick? So you got this guy being pulled in lots of different directions. And when I was growing up, these are the little toys that we have. But I think today Gumby is very much applicable to what's going on today. We're getting pulled in a lot of different directions. I know that at my house right now, my wife, I think, is going nuts with the different directions that the kids are pulling her because my kids have been on this extended, super long spring break. They had spring break and then school got called off, and it's just been one thing after another as far as staying home and coming up with activities. So, she's going through her own Gumby, and everybody's having their own version of what that looks like and their own version of what this means to them. I was reminded earlier today, I was talking to a couple, and they were in their early 50s, and they had done a really nice job of savings and had over $1 million in savings. And in particular, we started talking about liquidity. And she was running down one path with her career and her direction, her thoughts about her portfolio. And he was running down another direction about what his portfolio was going to do and the direction that his portfolio was going to take and his investment temperament and what he wanted to do. And they were decisively different. They were both on different pages with their goals and their aspirations. They kind of shared some money on some things, and then, they did different things with her money, and he did different things with his money. And so we started talking about liquidity, and I thought that was important for today's episode. And in particular, she wanted to have $200,000 to $300,000 of liquidity, and he wanted to have a smaller amount. He decided that he was going to take a couple years off from his job, and then figured out he needed X amount of money to be able to do that, not have to go to work and do the things that he wanted to do. She, on the other hand, was pursuing a different career later in life here, which I seem to run across that now more than ever. Had different requirements that were going to go with that career, had different amounts of money that she wanted to spend, and essentially she had earmarked the amount of money that she wanted to have. So here he is and here she is, and then they came together on some things, but they were so different on other things. And it came to this issue of liquidity. And she said, I want to have $200,000 to $300,000 of liquidity. So as I'm going through the portfolio, I was saying, and you've got $200,000 to $300,000 in cash, right? Like your liquidity. And she goes, oh yeah. And so I said, well, what does that look like? Where are you at? Are you in money markets? Are you in CDs? Short-term bonds? What does that look like? She goes, oh no, I'm in stocks. And I said, your liquidity monies are in stocks. And she goes, yeah, and it drives me nuts because I'm following some of what he told me. And we've got some short-term bonds and stuff, but those seem to be down too. I've been told that, I couldn't lose money there, so I put some of my money there, and he put some of his money there, but then I have a lot of the money liquid in stocks. That's what he was saying to do, and we kind of decided that we were going to do this. And I said, that's not where liquid money goes. And she goes, well, my stocks are liquid. And I said, yeah, but how are they doing? She goes, I don't know. I don't want to open my statement. She goes, this volatility, this craziness in this market, it's just driving me nuts. I can't handle it. And then he's saying, well, I like to trade, and I got some of the things, and I can handle it better than she can handle it. And I was sitting there going, different investment temperaments, different ways we should be investing, and da-da-da. But I said, both of you, stop. That's not where liquidity is for your portfolio. Liquidity is just that. It's liquid money that's safe. It's money that you're going to use to potentially pay your bills, or this $200,000 that you've identified that you have to have over the next couple of years for you to execute on your career change and the things that you want to have happen, or the $50,000, $60,000 that you've identified that you want to have happen so you can take this couple year sabbatical from your job. That money belongs in cash, not in stocks and bonds and things, so that when you open your portfolio, your liquid fund is dropped by 30%. because that's exactly what she was going through and exactly what happened, because I made her look at some of her statements and some of her accounts, much to her chagrin. Because she goes, I can kind of keep this market volatility at bay by not looking at my statements, because then I get really upset. And then I also get upset at him because I was following some of the things that he did when I'm not like that. I want to do this. And, you know, naturally I said by the end of the call, we need to have a plan for you and a plan for you, and we'll come together on the things that are mutual, and otherwise we'll design yours like this and yours like this. But what was interesting is I've said time and time again, when we're designing a proper portfolio, too many times I see people going from the top down. They're more aggressive, and they think that this aggressiveness and having this money in the stocks and bonds and this part of the triangle is also where their liquid monies are. And that's not right. We should be building a portfolio from the bottom up. These things on the bottom are safe. They're liquid. It's your protection. It's it's your cash. It's your emergency fund. It's that 3 to 6 months that everybody preaches you should have, for your living expenses, or short-term monies to fix things, or projects that you have designed, or baby needs braces, or whatever that is. Those are down here. And protections such as health insurance and disability and life insurance and those things, they're down here. Your home insurance, your auto insurance, they're down here. Okay? They're not liquid monies tied to stocks that are up here, because then it's unpredictable, because that $200,000-$300,000 that you thought you had, that was your liquid safe money, just took a 20 to 30% hit in the stock market. And it's not there anymore. It's now 150 to 200 grand. It's not the 300 anymore that you thought it was. And it's not the 15-20% to come back. Yesterday we told you a 34% drop meant as much as 50% of an upside to come back just to even. 25%, 33% on the upside to come back to even. That's not where liquid money belongs. And so we started talking today with these people, and I was in a lengthy conversation. I said, you know what, send me your statements. I got to see what's going on, because your version of liquidity and my version of liquidity are different. And then, as I'm going through asking specific questions, you don't know what you have. And when we start this liquid conversation, that's what needs to happen first. You need to be looking at what's going on with your portfolio. And truly, what kind of liquid funds do you have? Where could I get money? What should I be doing with my money? Should I be rebalancing my money in light of everything that's happened? I'm nervous about what's going forward. Should I be preparing my portfolio for that? You're Gumby. You're getting pulled in all these different directions right now, and you need to be building the all-weather plan that's going to survive during this crazy time. Yes, I know the market's bounced back off its lows, and we're down, 12% on the S&P, 16% on the Dow, and you think the worst is over? A lot of this up has been institutions covering their short positions or buying. Okay? It's not the average Joe buying. I mean, I hear people saying, oh, so-and-so dropped, and I'm thinking about stepping a little bit in and taking a little bit of money in there, and then maybe taking some profits, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Great, you want to do that? That's not buying. Buying is institutions coming in and taking advantage of things maybe that have dropped to pop up a little bit, and then selling into that strength. Or covering because they were betting on the market going down, and they have to cover those positions, so they have to buy back in, and it drives the market back up. That's buying. That's artificial. That's not the market having a sustained uptrend and a recovery, because you have so many other things that are playing out there that are negative. Are you truly going to go running back into public again if you don't know the person next to you is safe, doesn't have COVID-19 or can get you sick? Are you going to go to a movie again without proper testing? Are you going to go on a cruise again, seeing everything that continues to happen with that industry? I'm not. Okay, my wife's seasick anyway, so she's happy to hear that. But, am I going to go on a cruise ship again with all this uncertainty and all these health issues out there? And people are saying that a vaccine's 18 months away. So you think the market's corrected itself and we're going up from here? Every other company's coming out saying, hey, take my guidance and throw it out the window. Don't plan on my numbers being this because we don't know. We have 17 million people that are unemployed. That number is going to go considerably higher before this is done. Because the longer the economy stays closed, the more people that are going to be affected by this. These stimulus checks are hitting the bank account for what? $1,200, married couple, $2,400. You got a couple of kids, $500 each. How long is that going to last? How long is that going to last? And if that's all the liquidity that you have, then we got major problems and we got major time to figure out what's happening. And if we're 18 months away from that eureka moment when we finally have great testing and we got an antiviral and we can protect against this, because the problem with this thing is it's heavily contagious. So imagine opening up the economy and we go through an open, close, shut down again, open, close, shut down again. We're too fast. Now we've got too many people getting sick. This thing isn't going to go away like this. I don't know if this thing's going to go away here in Arizona because we hit 115 in August. Does that mean the virus is dead? We burn it off of surfaces and we burn it out of people with sweat? I don't know. I don't think so. So you have to be careful with what you're doing. And those liquid funds are not being careful being in stocks and bonds at this time. Money markets. And I know that it's not glamorous to get 0.0007% in your money market or a one-year CD at 90 basis points. I get it. But it's money that you're planning on using. It's money that you need. If your kid's going to school next year, and you're a year away from that, decision. Are you going to go through and roll it all in the market and try to pick a couple of stocks to maybe get a little extra for Susie or Joe's education? Come on, the risk associated with that is ridiculous. We easily can go back down from here and retest the lows. Once, unless we get some positive news and we really start heading in a major direction and we got testing, all rules are off with this market. I'm kind of flabbergasted that we've had this little pop-up rally that we've had, because what's it based on? New York, we had one less death, we had one less case that didn't have to be vented. Come on. Those governors are getting together right now trying to talk about how to open their economy. California, Oregon, and Washington are getting together talking about opening their economy. They're talking about having Major League Baseball in my backyard. All the teams here are playing baseball. Because Arizona is sparse and it's spread out. And people have, bigger properties with their houses, so we're not living on each other like New York. But please, do not take this as the affirm, the validation that things are okay and I'm going to put my liquid funds in stock market. No. Liquidity belongs right here at the bottom of your pyramid. Safe. Very safe. So, now, we have the flip side of that coin. What are we doing to get liquidity? So I realize that it's hard times right now. You're going through your Gumby moments. You need those money to pay your bills. Maybe you're laid off. You're in the hospitality industry, or you help out with the sporting industry, or whatever. You're a small business, a small restaurant, whatever. There's so many businesses that unfortunately are just feeling it. And really, my heart goes out to you. Okay? I hear it. I'm on the front lines in my own little way, trying to talk to people, help people out that have just, the amount of decimation, uncertainty, lack of clarity is just crazy. And I said before, we're in a unique position. We get to meet a lot of great people. But we also hear a lot about, the deepest, darkest secrets from those people and what's going on. And there's so many times where I just want to, grab them and give them a hug, and I can't do that anymore because of social distancing. But I just want to tell them it's going to be okay. But it's also going to be okay a lot of times by restructuring and doing some things differently. So with these liquidities, one of the biggest opportunities that's been handed to you, which is going to be this huge internal debate, is you've just been given the ability to pull up to $100,000 out of your 401ks or your IRAs or your qualified plans before 59 and a half and not have to pay the 10% penalty. Still got to pay the income tax, but you don't have the 10% penalty for early withdrawal. And you're sitting there, and we've been told time and time again, don't touch this money. Let it grow tax deferred so that when you retire, you've got all this money built up for you. That money's sacred. It's the last piece of money that you touch. So, I would probably tell you no. It's okay maybe to tap into that money now. And let me tell you why that tax deferral argument maybe doesn't make as much sense as you think it does. Take $1,000. Play with me for a second. You got $1,000, you're putting it into your account, okay? And right now, let's say that you're going to take that money and you're going to pay taxes on it. Let's say you're in the 22% tax bracket. So after tax, what are you left with? $780. Okay? That's if you take the money and you spend it. Now, let's take that same $1,000 and let's put it in your qualified plan. All right? And the benefit that you have with the qualified plan is you don't have that 22% tax right now, so you have this $1,000 growing for you. And let's run these numbers out for 10 years. Okay? Now, there's a rule of 72 out there. And essentially what you do is you take your interest rate and you divide it by 72, and that roughly tells you how long it takes your money to double. So let's assume 7% divided by 72, and we're going to use roughly at 7%, my money doubles in 10 years. Because 7% is kind of what the S&P 500 from an appreciation potential has done since it came out in the 50s. Really, the appreciation part of it has been about 7%. Forget the dividends and all that stuff. We're just talking the appreciation. So, in this particular scenario, your $780 at 7% a year, doubling in 10 years, grew to $1,560. Okay? Over here in your 401k, you're happy because instead of $1,560, you have $2,000, right? So looking pretty good, right? I'm $2,000. Oh, forgot one thing that I got to do. I got to pay the tax, right? So let's assume that I've got 22% that I got to pay in tax. So out of curiosity, what am I left with when I take that money out? If it's less $440 because of the taxes, what am I left with?
It's the same.
$1,560. And you people participating in the audience following along, you're exactly right. It's the same. Okay? So, are you benefiting from tax deferral? Because I'm going to share with you one thing. One thing to me that's rather daunting in this example is I only need tax rates to go up 1% or 2% or 3% or 4% or much higher when they've been. We've talked about tax rates has been on as high as in the 90 percentile, but on average has been 40% plus over the history of taxes. And if I'm paying more taxes, what happens to this argument versus this argument? This argument loses. Tax deferral doesn't make sense in a potential rising tax environment. And you have to think about this concept. When this concept was kind of being hatched and incubated, remember I started in this business in 1986 is when I started in this business. Okay, I've been doing it since about 15, but 86 is when I kind of got my license, all right? So I'd heard about tax deferral, tax deferral, tax deferral. Things were much different then. Tax rates were much different then. Taxes were a lot higher. And I know that individually taxes are different. If you live in California and New York, you're going to pay higher taxes. You got more taxes. City tax, state tax, property taxes are higher. We can go on and on and on. But the reality is most individuals right now are benefiting by this huge thing that Trump did in the Tax Reform Act that he passed a couple of years ago. He passed some of the lowest tax brackets we've been in 77 years. As a matter of fact, a married couple right now at $168,000, which translates into an adjusted gross income after deductions of probably close to like $190,000, is in a 22% tax bracket. And did you know that that same couple can go up to about $321,000 of adjusted gross income and only pay 2% more in the way of tax, which is 24% taxes on all of that income, up to that income, we're in a graduated scale. So essentially, does it make sense to tax defer when I'm in one of the lowest tax environments right now? Because what I'm going to ask you is, if I had 100 people in the room, and those of you that are participating right along here, do you think the taxes are going to go down, or are they going to go up in the future? What do you all think?
Going up.
Okay, so everybody just raised their hands that they think it's going up. All right, and if you don't think they're going up, well, let me tell you a little story. What's happened recently that's been unprecedented? It's the fact that the Treasury has put in $5 trillion of additional liquidity. The IMF has put in over $1 trillion of additional liquidity. As a matter of fact, they said we're entering into a worldwide depression. We blew through a recession a long time ago. And ultimately, when you're thinking about all this money and all these subsidies and all these things that are coming in to help people out, how do we pay for those things over the long run? The government only has two ways to pay for them, right? Reduce expenses. How many people think we're really good at that? I don't see any of them that are raising their hands. Or raising taxes. Which one do you think is going to play out? So when you look at deferring this money and thinking that you're saving all this money in taxes, could you be saving into potentially higher tax brackets down the road, potentially much higher tax brackets? And I'll tell you this. Okay? That's the date that's set right now, that regardless of what happens, the Trump tax reform goes back to the old way it was in 2017 or worse. And with the IRS, we literally, if the IRS was a baseball player, they'd be in the Hall of Fame. Because they're like 15 for 17 in the way of tax changes over the last 17 years. They change it all the time. And we have one of the things that's looming that could cause that number to change quickly, much faster. And that's this little thing that we have coming up in November, which is called the presidential election. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because you're starting to have a lot of negative stuff coming out about the current administration. They didn't act soon enough. And when people are losing their jobs and the economy isn't doing well, who do they blame? They blame the president. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't care what your politics are, and I'm not up here to get into a debate with you about politics or taxes or anything. I'm just telling you, there's a lot of stuff rolling. It's like a tsunami rolling that could cause tax rates to go exponentially higher. So this deferral argument right now maybe doesn't make as much sense. So pulling money out of your qualified plans right now to help you out with liquidity could make great sense. And guess what? They're giving you 3 years to pay the taxes. You can pull up to $100,000 with no 10% penalty right now before you're 59 and a half and amortize the taxes or pay the taxes over 3 years. Or you could pay it back and not pay any of the taxes. So you have the ability to have that money in your hands for 3 years and not having to worry about, the tax situation right now. You can pay it over 3 years. But what's more important? Having the money in your hands or potentially deferring, and then deferring for some unknown tax situation down the road? I probably would venture to say it's pretty nice having that money in my hands right now and being able to take this great gift that I've been given and use it. We've been suggesting it to people because it presents some unique planning opportunities for us. Ways to help generate additional income, ways for us to help diversify portfolios, de-risk portfolios, do some neat things with it. But we also tell people what a great source of liquidity. If you're hurt looking for money right now, that helps. Second thing is required minimum distributions, what we call RMDs. They've been waived. You've been handed a gift this year. You don't have to do it. So if you're 72 and a half now under the new Secure Act legislation that's out there, where they've raised requirement minimum distribution ages to 72 now. If you're born after 49 or later, you've got that money now. You don't have to do that. Doesn't mean you don't have to. it means you maybe will pay a bigger, percentage in the way of taxes next year, but who cares? If you're a senior and you need money right now and you need things to money to pay your bills, what a great way to be able to do that. RMDs have been waived. So, you need to be thinking about sensibly where you're going to be getting money to pay your bills during this time. I understand there's the Paycheck Protection Program. Everybody I've talked to said it's really not gone smoothly. One of the things that I can give you right now is you better file your 19 taxes to be able to, to participate in that. Secondly, go to the SBA website. They lay it out there, and if you have a relationship with a good banker and you're a business, go there. Okay, I was encouraged to see that I think JP Morgan released this morning, they've already given out $9 billion under that program. I've also seen these stimulus checks are going out. If you have direct deposit with the IRS, that's happening as early as this week. Some people have already gotten their money. All right, so there are other programs out there to get money. The Payment Protection Program, the PPE, I realize it's tough. Okay, but get together with your accountant. Look at the SBA website, get on there and go to your bank. I was talking to my bank. They said they have $200 million to give out. Okay, as of a couple days ago, they had only processed 2 applications. Unfortunately, they'd kicked back like 200 because people just aren't following the directions or trying to cut corners. It's not going to work that way because unfortunately, there wasn't great direction either given to these banks as to how to do it because the banks are assuming some of this, 5%. But the Treasury says they're going to backstop this money. So I wish they would come out and do a better job of guidance with these banks to help these struggling poor businesses. But under those Paycheck Protection Programs, I think you can get up to $100 grand if you're a small business. That's out there. The stimulus money's out there. You've got, the ability to do your 401ks, to go get, money out right now and not have to worry about the loans. All that stuff is you've got flexibility on that. You also have to ask yourself, should you really be deferring in those plans right now? If you've taken hits in your liquid asset funds, I'm really a stickler about getting liquidity there first. Deferring money to only go through and have to borrow it out again or tie it up in an asset that might be down 20 or 30%, like I just talked about, that couple I spoke with this morning, that's not a good way to go. So I applaud you for trying to continue to build, in your long-term investment funds. But maybe right now having that money closer to home is a better way to go. So there's more ideas. We can give some of those to you if you're looking for some of the information that we have available and different ways that you can get money. In the comment section, you can put that and we'll go ahead and try to help you with that. But more importantly, I want you to be smart about the financial decisions that you're making. We're always here to help you. You can pick up the phone and call us, and we've got a bunch of people that we've been doing that for. We may not have all the answers, but we're at least another voice to help you through this. I know it's tough out there. I know a lot of this is going on with people. So please, realize that we're all in this together and we're all trying to do our part. I applaud everybody that's out there doing their part and all the definition of new heroes, which is our healthcare workers. I was looking this morning, here comes the sanitation guys down the alley behind our house, and sure enough, they're cleaning up everything that's in the alley. They're cutting down all the bushes and the weeds and stuff. Man, God love those guys for being out there doing that in a very difficult time. My hat's off to them. So essentially, be smart with your money, be safe, and I thank you for listening to another episode of Sick Money. This has been Pat Moran with Healthier Money. Live long and profit.